Hi there, this is Datila with Rangers of Wrestling, bringing you the It's Wrestling Time post show. And for tonight, I will be reviewing Impact Wrestling. Alrighty then. So, Impact Wrestling kicked off with Josh Alexander talking about how over the last few months he's talked about the Impact title, and if there's anything that means more to him than the Impact title, it's Impact Wrestling. He said that 3 years ago, Impact Wrestling gave him an opportunity, and without Impact, there would be no walking weapon. He said that he would be damned if Impact goes to war against Honor No More without him, and that he will be proud to stand by his Impact brothers. So then, he says that every time he brings up the opportunity at the world title, Scott D'Amore tells him that he needs to keep his emotions in check. But yet, meanwhile, Morrissey gets a title shot, and that's true. Scott D'Amore has told Josh Alexander he needs to keep his emotions in check. Yet Morrissey, who, if you guys recall last week, went to Moose's hotel, beat the living tar out of him, and he still has a title shot. So what gives Scott D'Amore? He says that he's drawing the line in the sand, that as of today, there's no more obstacles, no more detours, and not a damn thing standing in his way, and that after no surrender, he's going to invoke his rematch clause. Now, if you guys remember, Josh Alexander has yet to get his hands on Moose. He's gone through Minoru Suzuki, he's gone through Jonah, he's gone through Charlie Haas. Most recently, he went through Vincent. And everything he's defeated every single one of them, and he's trying to make his way back into the title seat. Now, surprise, surprise, guys, Connor from the Ascension debuted under the name Big Con, and Josh Alexander said that he was basically another obstacle. He didn't want to wait till next week to take care of business. He wanted to handle it now. So we had a match. The first match of the night was Big Con versus Josh Alexander. This was as essentially a squash match. Josh Alexander beating Big Con by putting him in the ankle lock. But after the end of the match, Josh Alexander would not release the ankle lock, and security had to come out to try to separate them. Even Scott D'Amore came out, and it wasn't enough to separate them. He shoved Scott D'Amore. And Scott D'Amore basically told him that he didn't come out to talk about emotions and checking them or to get dropped, and that he's watched them grow into a man and watched they get away from Josh with a career-threatening injury, and that he's been there for every big event in Josh's life. He says Josh tells Scott D'Amore he doesn't want the EVP. He wants his old coach back, the guy that cares, and that he's worked way too hard to have everything ripped away from him. Josh says that he will carry Impact to heights it's never seen before, and to prove that every sacrifice was worth it. He says, Scott D'Amore says it's going to happen, but it's a process. And Josh fires back by saying that he is done with the process and he wants his title shot. And if he doesn't get it, I think he said that he's going to sue. And Scott D'Amore basically has enough of this and kicks Josh Alexander off the team at No Surrender and sending Josh home. Now, if you guys remember, Josh Alexander is supposed to be part of Team Impact going up against Honor No More. So now that he's off the team, Team Impact has to find his replacement. So Scott D'Amore said he's not going to drag Josh out of the ring, and he said Josh is going home until everything gets sorted. So I remember there were rumors saying that Josh Alexander has yet to sign a new contract with Impact. I honestly do believe he is going to stay, and this whole staying at home thing is just part of the storyline. So I guess depending on how long they want to keep Josh Alexander at home, we just have to wait and see. We don't know yet if they're going to throw another obstacle at Josh after he comes back, or if they're going to build to Moose versus Josh at Rebellion. So we have to wait and see. But I'm liking where this is going. So after that, Scott D'Amore is approached by Steve Macklin backstage. He says that he wants on the team. And Scott D'Amore reminds him that he's made a lot of enemies in Impact, and it will be up to the team to pick Josh's replacement. So then after this, we get Deonna's Purrazzo Open Challenge. So you guys remember last week, she made an open challenge, and she said that any one of her titles could be on the line. So Santana Garrett enters the open challenge, and it's for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. This was a good match. Santana Garrett held her own against Deonna. But of course, it wasn't enough. Deonna Purrazzo putting Santana Garrett in the Fujiwara armbar basically ended up being victorious and retained her titles. And that's why she is the Vuchosa champ. All right, so then we get a segment with Team Impact, who basically says that they want Jonathan Gresham on the team and over Macklin, which doesn't sit well with Macklin, as you guys can see. Then we had Chelsea Green versus Mickie James. It was a non-title match, folks. So Tasha Steelz is on commentary, obviously. She's watching this match. She's the number one contender. She has to be out there. So there is this one part where when Mickie James slides out of the ring, Tasha Steelz basically says that she's making Donovan proud. And she calls Chelsea a non-factor and tells her not to look at her. Chelsea Green, using Tasha Steelz' move on Mickie James, the RKO cutter. That accepts Tasha Steelz, and she throws a trash can into the ring. She has Savannah Evans trip Chelsea Green and causing a DQ. So we found out that next week we're going to have a tag team match. It's going to be Mickie James and Chelsea Green versus Savannah Evans and Tasha Steelz. Should be interesting. Then after this, we get the inspiration segment. If you guys recall last week, they did give Caleb with the K a gift, which ended up being a cell phone. And they basically tell him to use the camera, and they do an impromptu photo shoot. Madison Rain catches them, and he says that the inspiration are basically Jezebels who tricked them into doing a photo shoot. And Madison Rain reminds Caleb that he works for the influence, not the inspiration. I'm actually digging the inspiration versus the influence feud. I'm really hoping the inspiration retains though. All right, so then we got a Bullet Club segment. Jay White basically saying that he's back on Impact and he bought friends. He bought the Gorillas of Destiny. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, especially now that we know Jay White's also on AEW. So the Gorillas of Destiny said that they're 7-time IWGP Tag Team Champions and are the future Impact Tag Team Champions. If you guys recall, they did call out the Good Brothers 2 weeks ago. So Tonga Loa says that in a few weeks they will travel to Louisiana and win the tag titles. They said that the Good Brothers are big fans of the Bullet Club and had no idea that Violent by Design were even bigger fans of the Bullet Club. And Violent by Design interrupts, and they introduce themselves to the Bullet Club and basically say that they're looking at a real family. And Eric Young says they're not some wannabes holding on to something that was cool 10 years ago and something that they didn't even create. Violent by Design says that they run things in Impact. And Jay White rebuttals and says that Impact has been running pro wrestling for 10 years and it doesn't matter the country or promotion, Bullet Club Baby is always on top. So then Jay White accuses Eric of creating his own Bullet Club with Violent by Design and says that Eric is no Jay White. So Jay White says that Eric is not the leader of the Bullet Club and he's going to show Eric what it's like to hang out with the Switchblade because it's still his era. So I'm so excited. I cannot wait for Jay White versus Eric Young at No Surrender. Eric Young says he doesn't want to wait 9 days. And Jay White says he doesn't want to wait 7 days. Jay White says he wants to handle business tonight. And guess who comes out? The Good Brothers come out and interrupt. Say that they're a couple of rock stars and they had to come out because it's the Bullet Club. And they say how hard is it for them to thank them for their big houses, for their cars, for their clothes, for their children. And he said that Doc Gallows says every year he gets a thank you from Haku. Tama Tonga says he calls them the Good Sisters for leaving, and he makes references for the OC and the club. And then the Good Brothers see that they've been everywhere collecting championships. Tama Tonga fires back and says, of course they've been everywhere because they've been fired from everywhere. And that at No Surrender, not only are they going to take the tag titles from them, but they're going to fire them. I don't know how that's going to happen, but he says that they're going to fire them. I actually really like that segment, and I'm hoping Gorillas of Destiny finally win the tag titles. This is the match we've been waiting for and we've been stalling for since August of last year from New Japan Resurgence, and Gorillas of Destiny need to win those tag titles. If not, then them stalling and waiting for the Good Brothers was completely pointless. They need to win this. So then we get a backstage segment with Matt Cardona, and he says, Gio Miller calls it the Digital Media Championship, but Matt Cardona is quick to remind her, saying that it's the Digital Media World Championship. He says that he was screwed at Hard to Kill and calls it the Dallas screw job, and that he made the internet relevant, that if it wasn't for him and his YouTube show, Being the Elite wouldn't exist, that wrestlers wouldn't be streaming video games and making money off Twitch, that if it wasn't for him, wrestlers wouldn't be walking around creating vlogs, and that at No Surrender, Jordan has a rematch, and she needs to be ready because he's always ready. I actually like this, and Matt Cardona made up a good point. He did create the Internet Championship, so this fits him perfectly. You know, he did create Z True Long Island Story, I think even way before Being the Elite. You know, he did create vlogs and all this, so give him credit where credit is due. So then, before we get into Matt Tavern and Mike Bennett versus Rhino and Rich Swann, we find out that Jonathan Gresham was attacked. But we don't know who attacked Jonathan Gresham and why, but I have my suspicions, but it plays into this match. So obviously Maria was on commentary, and she's asked if Honor No More attacked Jonathan Gresham. She said no, that they were actually trying to recruit Jonathan Gresham to join them. So my suspicion is that Steve Macklin attacked Jonathan Gresham, because if you guys recall at the beginning of the show, Steve Macklin wanted to join Team Impact, and Scott D'Amore said he would leave it up to the team, and the team wanted Jonathan Gresham. That did not sit well with Steve Macklin, so I think Steve Macklin is the one who attacked him. And if you guys also recall, Steve Macklin has had 2 matches against Jonathan Gresham. So you guys see the pattern here? See where this is going? Yeah, Steve Macklin, I think, attacked Jonathan Gresham to try to take this spot on Team Impact. But anywho, back to the match. So during this match, of course, Vincent causes a distraction, and Chris Sabin pulls him off. The ref sends Honor No More to the back, as well as Chris Sabin. Matt Taven did a baseball slide to Rich Swann, and Swann at one point got double teamed by Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett accidentally crashed into Matt Tavern, and then Maria, she got off in commentary. While the ref was distracted, she threw white powder into Rhino's face, and it allowed them to pick up the victory. Then at the end, they did a proton pack to Rich Swann. And Matt Taven is looking at Kerry Silken, and he tells him Honor is dead and that he killed it and that he's not his boss anymore, and he tells him to get lost. Then at that instant, Steve Macklin comes out and he takes out Matt Taven while Rhino gores Mike Bennett. Then in the back, Steve Macklin gets stung by Ian Ribacani and tells him that he didn't do it for them. He did it, that Ring of Honor No More had it coming. He's like I said, if you guys recall, they attacked him at the end of his match with Jonathan Gresham. And Eddie Edwards has his out and does not want Steve Macklin to join the team. But Chris Sabin says that they don't have a choice, that they can't find anybody to replace Josh Alexander. So Chris Sabin welcomes him onto the team. So then afterwards, we had Giselle Shaw, who made her debut on BTI, taking the spotlight away from Lady Frost. And she says that you basically can't steal something that you don't own, and that if Lady Frost has a problem, she can meet her in the ring next week. And that the spotlight is and will always be on her. So basically now we know that Giselle Shaw is going to be making her in-ring debut next week against Lady Frost. So I'm actually pretty excited because she looked badass. Like, just based on this promo. She looked really badass, and she debuted before Veer, so that says something. So then in the main event, we had the no DQ match. It was Brian Myers versus W. Morrissey. As we recall, the learning tree has been a thorn into W. Morrissey's side. You know, they had that 8-on versus 1 handicap match. They just been after W. Morrissey. So of course, VSK and Ziggy Dice try to attack W. Morrissey before the match. It doesn't work. Their efforts are in vain. Myers ended up taking down Morrissey because of Ziggy Dice and VSK. Then they grab a table. Now, Brian Myers could have made the pin here, but he chose not to. So they grab a table, and Ziggy went through one of them because W. Morrissey gave him the big boot. They managed to put W. Morrissey on a table, but it collapsed. And then VSK gets chokeslammed through the table. You can see Myers go under the ring, and he grabs a candlestick. Somewhere along the line, Morrissey gets taped to the ring, and Brian Myers hits him with a candlestick and a trash can, and then that's the coast to coast. And then after Morrissey breaks free, he ends up hitting Myers with a candlestick, and then he breaks it. So then he gives him the big QA to Myers, and he does it again. Then he goes outside, gets a bag of thumbtacks, pours the thumbtacks on the ring, and he gives Brian Myers the big QA, ends up winning the match. Who comes out? Moose comes out, puts the chair on Morrissey's throat, hits Morrissey with the chair around his throat, hits him 3 times. Then after that, he hits him one last time in the back with the steel chair, and he holds his title, basically sending Morrissey a message. What a show. This show alone made me excited for No Surrender, and we're not even this isn't even the go home show. And so I actually liked everything from the show, top to bottom, 5 out of 5 and a perfect 10. You people need to stop sleeping on Impact Wrestling. I've said it once, and I'll keep saying it. Stop sleeping on Impact Wrestling. This was a fantastic show. You guys definitely need to check it out. And as for me, Legacy of Power Episode 3, Valentine's Day edition, premieres next Tuesday. Impact was well, that's your opinion, but I disagree, Steve. Premieres next week on Tuesday, and thank you guys all so much for watching. Please, thank you guys all for your support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow after SmackDown and Rampage. Bye.